rules for the day. We want to have rules so that the conversation will move on very smoothly. No phones ringing and other stuff. So let's take our ground rules. So first, I would like all of us to mute our mics when not speaking, so that there will be no noise with our discussion. And also our phones should also be on silent or, if possible, on vibration. And we have to use the chat box to ask questions and also share our comments or engage in the discussion. If you also have some contribution or questions, then that you can also mic, and then we pick you, and then we take your questions and your contributions. Okay, so and lastly, we will plead with everybody that we have to use a very, very appropriate language, meaningful language. I know when it comes to plastics and our environment, most of us are very, very passionate and we have a lot of questions. I hope EPA is on here and people have a lot of questions, but doing that, we have to be mindful of the way we put our sentences and other stuff so that we don't offend anybody here. So as I said earlier on, my name is Efia Bafo Ewa. So moving on, we'll take our welcome address from Eric Efum Boam. I hope I got it right. That's the president of GRIPE. So hello, Eric. Eric, can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes. Okay. I say thank you, each and every one of you, for joining us today. Like you started by introducing me, yes, my name is Eric Efumbuama, and I am the president of GRIPE. I'll say that on behalf of the coalition, it is my pleasure to welcome every one of you to this program. We are delighted to have you here today to discuss the subject of plastic waste, solutions to plastic waste. This program marks a very significant milestone in our calendar globally. It is to mark World Environment Day, which happens to come off on the 5th of June. There are two activities earmarked for this. Actually, this is one of them, and we are very grateful that you took time to join us here. Yeah. So gatherings like this will help us to foster and then collaborate more amongst each other. It is also an opportunity for us to learn from each other's experiences and then move on as we try to play our part in this challenging moment. I sincerely thank all of you and our distinguished members here join us here, that you should feel free, you should be confident enough to discuss the issues. You should be able to ask the kind of questions that you want to ask. And then today we will know exactly what to do moving forward. I do not doubt that this event would be a resounding success that will leave us more inspired, motivated, and equipped to make a positive impact. Our speakers for today have been drawn from a wide area of scientific regulators, from the government sector, from the private sector, and from activists as well. And so I would hand you over to my my sister, Miss Efia Bewa, to introduce our panelists for today. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Eric Efum Boama for your warm welcoming messages. We are very, very grateful. So before we start our discussion, I would like to introduce our guests or our panelists. And I would like to also remind all of us that the conversation is being recorded. So let's take note of. So we have Mrs. Trinity Ama Tagbo. I hope I got the name right. If I don't get it right, it's a noun, a name of a person. So we have Dr. Mrs. Trinity Ama Tagbo. She is from she is a senior research scientist and a head of material and manufacturing division for CSIR and then IIR. And then we have Mr. Paul Kofi Bebro. I hope I got the name right. And I hope Mr. Paul is also online with us. He is from Tua House. So they are into upcycling. And then we have Mr. Lambert Donko. He is also from Let's Do It Ghana. So before the conversation, all our guests will introduce themselves like detailed for us. And then we have Mr. Godson Kujo Vuadu also with us. He is also from EPA, that's Environmental Protection Agency. So with introduction of our speakers, first let's take Mrs. Trinity Ama Tagbo to introduce herself to us, and then we take the next person.
Oh, I think you've done the introduction.
Mrs. Trinity, kindly unmute yourself so that we can hear you.
Yeah, I've done that, but I think you have introduced me already, or you still want me to introduce myself? Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. You still want me to introduce myself?
Yes, please go ahead and introduce yourself. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, please.
So my name is Trinity Ama Tagbo. As was said earlier, I'm with Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, Institute of Industrial Research in Accra. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, we move on to the next on our list. If you can briefly introduce yourself to us, to Mr. Godson Kujo from the Environmental Protection Agency, we'll be very much grateful. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon, colleagues. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, good afternoon.
Right, good afternoon.
Yes,
please, my name is Godson Kujo Vuado, and I work with the Environmental Protection Agency, specifically in the Human Settlement Unit of the agency. And I am responsible largely for issues on plastics and sanitation and waste management. I'm pleased to be with this program.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Mr. Donko, if you can also introduce yourself from here.
Mike.
I think his microphone is off.
Yes, his microphone is off. Mr.
Yes,
Lambert.
hello,
Okay.
my name is Lambert. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay, so my name is Lambert Donko, and I'm a founding member and a communications lead for Let's Do It Ghana. And so we believe in promoting activities that are geared towards a clean environment. And so to be part of this particular discussion, which will go a long way to improve society. I'm sure in the course of the submissions, we would go deeper into what we do and other things. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. So, and we have Mr. Paul Kofi Bebro. Hello, Mr. Paul.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, please. Kindly turn on your mic so that we can sorry, your camera so that we can see you.
I'll do that during the presentation. So I'm a bit camera shy.
Okay, that's fine.
Anyway, my name is Paul Kofi Beparij. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Twa House. At Twa House, we offer bespoke and complete plastic recovery, collection, and recycling services through a convenient and data-driven digital platform. We create environmental sustainability through an incentive system, and our services include collection, recycling services. We have a green tech solution. We do advocacy, education, and awareness. We also provide consultancy. And I wish everybody a happy Environmental Day in advance.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. And kindly let's take over from Mr. Eric Efum Boama. So he starts the discussion with EPA.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ifwa, and thank you to all our panelists for their various introductions. We'll move on with our discussion for the day and look at the solutions for plastic waste. We want to start with the Environmental Protection Agency. Then first of all, look at what we have in place and then move on from there. So if Mr. Godson can hear me, what specifically measures and policies does the government have in place to address plastic pollution in our country? If you can tell us about that, please.
Right. Thank you very much. As I said earlier on, we are pleased to be part of this very program for this 2023 World Environment Day with the main theme, solutions to plastic. Basically, I want to, please, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yeah, basically, I want to say that there are quite a number of measures and some policies that were put in place, as it were, to manage plastic pollution. For the sake of this very exercise, I want to talk mainly about the recent 3 interventions that government has instituted in order to manage plastics in Ghana. The first of it is the National Plastics Management Policy that was developed and then passed in 2020. The second one is the establishment of circular economy framework for plastic waste management in Ghana. And then the third is the Ghana National Plastic Action Partnership that was launched in 2019. And quite a lot of work has gone into it. Now, if you look at these specific interventions, taking the National Plastic Management Policy of 2020, the overall aim of this policy is to solve the challenges that are associated with plastics management, thereby improving the state of our environment. Right, and this very policy is built on 4 major pillars or 4 focal areas. And we believe that if all these 4 major pillars are run concurrently, we should be able to comprehensively achieve plastic pollution management in the country. And then these four major areas are: one, change of behavior, that is behavioral change. What do we do? What are we doing now as our way of life, the way we handle plastics that are creating problems for us? What can we do better by way of changing our behavior towards plastics, such that we should be able to manage the plastics comprehensively? Then there is a second pillar, that is strengthening planning, strategic planning or cross-sectoral collaboration. So that is the second pillar. In fact, I will be looking at the specific activities under these various pillars so that it will become very clear as we move on. Then the fourth pillar is resource mobilization towards a circular economy. And then the fourth is good governance, inclusiveness, and shared accountability. Now, if you take the behavioral change, what are the specific things that this policy seeks to achieve? One is to develop a comprehensive communication strategy such that every sector, every targeted group in the Ghanaian society, children, the aged, drivers, every facet of the society will be targeted, and messages will be developed targeting them so that they can also understand what the nation wants to do in terms of changing our behavior towards the way we handle plastics. Then the second activity is also to develop a program in the school curriculum such that right from the beginning, from the basic level, the kids, that our people should start learning about plastics, the issues of plastics, the impact of plastic on the environment, what they can do in order to ensure that plastics are handled in a way that eventually they don't become a problem for our environment. So it's also another activity area that this policy is looking at. So we'll be looking at the school curriculum and see how messages, teaching materials will be developed in that area so that right from the beginning, they say catch them young. So our kids can start picking the issues of plastic management right from the very, very basic level. Then there is also an issue of promoting alternatives. We need to be looking at alternatives. Now, this is what we are used to. There were some alternatives in the past that we have abandoned, and we have to go back to those roots. And then we also have to promote them. So these are just some of the specific programs that will be undertaken under behavioral change so that eventually we can impart the issues of managing plastic waste. Now, if you look at the strategic planning and a cross-sectoral collaboration, the issue is to establish collection, recovery, recycling targets, and also to develop national, regional, district, and local action plans in terms of the way we want to manage plastic waste in the country. And we will also go further to develop institutional and industrial action plans, because the institutions and industries also generate plastics. What are the specific plans that these industries and institutions can put in place so that plastics can be effectively, plastic waste can be effectively managed at that level? And we also will be looking at building capacity in terms of the collection, the recovery, and then the recycling. So these are some of the things that the policy seeks to look at under strategic planning and cross-sectoral collaboration. Now, if you come to the third pillar, that is talking about resource mobilization towards a circular economy. Here, there is a need for the development and implementation of a resource mobilization strategy. What do we need in order for us to be able to effectively manage plastics and plastic waste? Where will those resources come from? How are we going to play the resources in order to effectively manage plastics? So these are some of the things. And then there's also the need to establish what we call extended producer responsibility. Yes, it's necessary because we want to see how those who are into the production of plastic material to be part of the collection system. So there will be a framework to look at how the industry can play a role in ensuring that whatever that they produce that is put into the market for consumption, there must be that mechanism to be able to collect them back. That framework will be developed. The modalities will be looked at, but this is one of the major activities that has to be done if you want to bring about circular economy in plastic waste management. Right. And then there's also a need to develop certification systems and a comprehensive database on who produces what, in what form, in what quantity, where do those products finally end. So there will be a development of a comprehensive database to capture all the issues related to plastics, right from the production, the supplies, the consumption, the collection, and the final value addition. So that is what the third pillar is looking at. Now, the fourth pillar, which is about good governance, inclusiveness, and shared responsibility. We are looking at establishing a resource recovery secretariat and also developing robust regulatory frameworks. These are some of the specific activities that will be done, but there are quite a number of them. If you lay hand on the policy itself, you can look at the details. But in terms of a resource recovery secretariat, there is a need for establishing a body that will coordinate every activity in terms of plastics and plastics management in the country. In that wise, so they will become like a clearinghouse where any information, anybody that needs any information or any information that is generated in any part of the country in terms of plastic production, consumption, collection, recycling will be lodged there. And anybody who needs any information will just go and get that information and use it for whatever. So we'll have a unified data, unified information that can go out to the public and can even go out to the international sector. So these are the four major pillars that the National Plastic Management Policy seeks to. Now, the second intervention is the establishment of circular economy framework for plastic waste management. This one is basically,
Thank you very much for touching on the various things that has been put in place and the various things that will be put in place in future. For us to also look at one or two things. We move on to CSIR. We talked about plastic. Can you please tell us some of the long-term effects of plastic that we so dread and look at? Can you please educate us on some of the long-term effects, please?
Okay, thank you, Eric, for that question. To start with, I want to say that Ghana generates approximately 840,000 tons of plastics waste per year, and about 9.5% of that is collected for recycling. The rest end up as waste buried in the landfill, disposed of in the ocean, or left in the environment, or openly burnt. Now, in the environment, plastic waste accumulates, and they accumulate in the environment. And what happens is that it can amass in drains and gutters, which will lead to clogged drains and choked gutters. And this, as we know, sometimes contribute to flooding and may result in fatalities during heavy rains. Now, again, rainwater can collect in some of these plastics that are left in the environment and become stagnant. And this facilitates the outbreak of diseases like cholera and malaria. Those that end up in the landfills, and as we know in Ghana, most of these landfills are not properly engineered. So what happens is that they stay in the landfills. Those that end up in the landfills stay in the landfills for so long because it takes so long, sometimes centuries, for plastics to degrade, especially when they are in the landfills. And so it takes up space. Whilst it does that, it also leaches out chemicals, which are additives added to plastic to improve their properties. And as it leaches out, it contaminates groundwater and soil. And this affects drinking water and farmlands. And as we all know, these chemicals have been linked to cancer, reproductive problems, and other health issues. Now, talking about some of the plastic waste in the environment, some of them are openly burnt. And as they are burnt, toxins are released into the air. These toxins are also, some of them contribute to climate change, like carbon dioxide, short-lived black carbon, and particulate matter. Other toxins that are released when plastics are burnt are the additives that are already added, to the plastics, as I mentioned before. Again, as they get into the air, they are free to rapidly move over large distances before resettling. And these air pollutants are available for environmental and human exposure. And they do this through inhalation, dermal exposure, and ingestion of contaminated food and water. Now, in the marine and freshwater environment, we've heard of entanglement and injection of plastic waste by wildlife. And also some habitats have been altered because sometimes the plastics serve as host for some microbes and all that. So they transport them to other areas of the ocean or whatever it is. And also, as these plastics are in the water, what happens is that once again, the chemicals that are associated with them get released into the water or the ocean or the fresh water. And we have also heard of reports of plastic waste and the fact that they have been found in the human food web. These have all been reported. The dangerous part of it all is that now plastic waste, because they don't degrade, we've realized that it actually doesn't degrade fully, but it rather breaks down to microplastics and nanoplastics. And these are very, very tiny particles. And these are now emerging cases. They are now emerging sources of soil and freshwater pollution. Now, we've also heard of reports of contamination of tap and bottled water by microplastics, and it is actually widespread. But now WHO is assessing the possible effects on human health. Now, so all these ways that plastic waste get transported, you realize that at the end of the day, it gets everywhere. There's nowhere on the planet that we don't have plastic waste. It gets everywhere. So that is what is happening now. So I think I will stop here and then continue later.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Dr. Tagba. That's like it covers all our life and what we do. It's a very serious issue that we have to take a second look at and look at how we dispose of plastic. Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Tagbo. I think that from here I would employ on our panelists to keep our answers brief. There will be several opportunities for you to touch on one or two issues. And so we have some time. We don't have to put all our answers in a particular question that will be posed. So we move on to the next, which is Paul Kofi of Chua House. We've heard of the name Paul Kofi, but we don't know what you do. And so we'd like to know what inspired you to start the innovating in the field of plastic that you are currently doing. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Eric. I think what inspired me to set up Twa House was the very reasons my big brother from EPA spoke about. Behavioral change and all that. This company was set up 8 years ago, and we've been doing a lot of, work around plastics. And over 5 years, we did an R&D to find out exactly the reasons why people do what they do. Behavioral change is something we've been trying, to work on. And we also came up with 4 pointers, which is regulation, because currently there is no bylaw that mandates people to sort their waste, and hence no punishment for non-compliance. So, and the second one is sustained education, which my big brother from EP also spoke about. People are still not abreast with the importance of waste sorting, and so there's a need for sustained behavioral change communication. Again, we realize that incentives is a major boost to get people to recycle, and the more tangible incentives people can get, the higher the patronage in the circular economy, value chain. So incentives also plays a major role, and we have created a number of interventions in the form of incentives that are getting people to recycle. I'll just touch on just one. Healthcare is a major necessity for human life, and so we realized that people below the poverty line, are not able to access healthcare. And so we decided that as a team to leverage on plastic waste to get people to get an insurance cover. Now, we have a micro insurance product, which we call the Ahobwa Micro Life Insurance, which we are working with, or with a third-party insurance company on that. You will not believe that within 2 months of actually running with this particular project, we were able to sign over 57,000 people who are bringing plastics to us monthly as an insurance premium. And that means that the least on our 5-tier insurance packages is 55 bottles, And so if you even do the math, we're doing almost 148,000 plus plastics out of the system every single month. This is tangible for us because you're able to access healthcare through our insurance products, and it's a win-win for the environment and for us. Lastly, we realized that that recycling units or recycling facilities are inadequate, even though there's been a lot of rise in people doing a lot of plastic recovery, but we still need more. So these are the building blocks that enabled us to set up Twa House, and that's where we are. That's the work we've been doing so far, and this inspiration behind Twa House, and we believe that going forward, we may be able to do more.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Paul Kofi. If I summarize what inspired you to go into what you do, I see you advocating for behavioral change. I see your love for making human interventions to target the poor people in the society. I also see you trying to create employment, trying to advocate that everybody should play a part. We all have a part to play in this plastic journey that we are on. Thank you very much for sharing this with us. It's actually inspiring to see young people taking up actions and then doing something to fight the menace that we currently have. Yeah. I would go on to our next person, which is Mr. Lambert. You work with an organization called Let's Do It. We'd like to know, what does Let's Do It do actually?
So thank you very much, Eric. I think I've been following the discussion and it's getting exciting already. So Let's Do It Ghana, we are an environmental non-governmental organization as well. We are under an international body called the Let's Do It World, and we believe in promoting clean and a green environment. So most of the things we do are geared towards education, sensitization, creating a lot more awareness on what we have been doing that we feel are harmful to the environment. And then we also look at what we can do to better make the environment a better place for us all to live. So Let's Do It Ghana, and of course, Let's Do It World, which is the international body. We have a track record of raising awareness, and one of the key interventions we use is the World Cleanup Day, which is held on every second Saturday in September. So this particular day is set aside so we can all come together as environment lovers, everybody in the sector. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please, I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, so this particular day has been set aside. We come together, bring people from various sectors, from businesses, from community enthusiasts, people, anybody who is an environment lover, so we can make a bold statement and then look at what we have done so far and how far we can go. If there is a need for advocacy to be probably strengthened a lot more, then we put heads together and we are able to do this. So this particular cleanup activity is replicated around the country. And of course, it's signed up by various countries around the world as well. So on that particular day, everybody gets involved around the world and we make that particular clarion call on world leaders, on ordinaries, able to look at what they have been doing that is not good enough, and then we can have some additional change. So I don't know if you may want me to probably focus on key projects that we have done in promoting awareness on reducing plastic pollution. So as I go on, key of them was our community for plastic reduction and recycling solution. And this project was also aimed at reducing littering in the Nima Mamobi community. So we piloted that and then it will be replicated along other districts in the country as well. So we look at a face-to-face approach where we go into the community. We go to community heads like maybe the chiefs in the community, the imams. We look at the school heads because we want to enter the community by letting these influencers understand what it means to have to have this canker on ourselves, because we believe that if they understand the implications that come with plastic pollution, then they would better be in a position to educate the members of their community. So these people accepted us, and by our partnership with them, Let's Do It Ghana was accepted in the community, and we are able to do our education. And we as an organization, Let's Do It Ghana, we've also believed that we cannot just continue doing education, sensitization, and we expect attitudes to change. So if we believe that we want to promote behavioral change on a certain activity, that's reduction, then there is a need for, I think my brother mentioned incentives. There's a need for us to find activities for them to do. So if we are saying don't litter indiscriminately, what do? It means that there is a need for us to provide dustbins for them. And so these are things that we did. We provide dustbins where necessary for the community members to also use in dumping their refuse. A very case where we could make change, because awareness goes with logistics for people to make the change that we desire. If we say they should reduce the use of rubber bags or polythene bags going to the market, then what do? We provided them with reusable bags. So we have our partners, Reusable Bags GH, who also came on board to support the project. And so they produce bags from cotton materials where they could use over and over again. You can only just wash them and then you are good to go the next time you are going to the market. So we went to schools to also educate on about plastic pollution and what they have to do going forward. So we also educated them on using single-use plastic. So it means that if there's a need for them to buy pure water every now and then they need to change from that to probably having bottles that they can use, reusable bottles. So we also provided them with a reusable bottle that they can use to schools and even in church. Even you going as well, you can't remember I'm going, I take my bottle along, then so I have my water intact and I can really sip my water at any point in time. So it prevents me from littering the environment. So these are few ways that Let's Do It Ghana we have been able to incorporate into our interventions. So as the education is going on, some of the educations were through the media, national media, some the local media in the communities where we operate. So we believe that as these educations are going on, then the alternative usable or the zero essentials are being promoted alongside. So with our
Let's do it, Ghana.
Like some of this logistics. And it's also interesting to know that our project is not, say again?
Yet,
it will also interest you to know that
Let's Do Ghana, you are doing a great programs, a great event, creating a team, and we are very grateful that you are also working in the space. Thank you again for sharing how you started to us. Every one of us, each one of us holds the power to drive change. And we should all remember that every small action we take counts. And so we are very grateful that you are also making a change in the society. Yes, I would hand over to my colleague Efia to also continue with a few of the questions, starting with the EPA. Efia, if you can take over, please. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Eric. So, continuing with EPA, we would like to know from Mr. Godson if how the government has collaborated with businesses and communities to reduce plastic waste, and also how to encourage sustainable practices.
Right.
Hello, Mr.
Thank
Godson.
you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Moderator. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, please.
Yes. I would want to indicate that government over the years really has been working with businesses and organizations, NGOs, and civil society organizations, associations in the management of plastic waste. In fact, these interventions were done, are still being done through the following. One, government supports businesses and communities to launch and implement plastic waste collection and recycling schemes. And I can even cite Gripe as one of the examples that we work with when they launched their project some few years back. And we also do work with government, also do work with some universities and some senior high schools to implement plastic collection schemes as part of the activities to manage the plastic waste that they generate within their own system. And we want to say that these are some of the little contributions that those individuals are doing in their own corner towards the issue of plastic waste management. And as part of the collaboration with businesses, regulators always ensure that approval systems are developed to ensure that businesses that wants to come into the space of plastics and plastic waste management are given some form of recognition and approval for them to go and do what they want to do in terms of plastic waste management. Right. And right. So with these few interventions, these are some of the things that government is doing in a way to support businesses, communities, to ensure that whatever plastic that is generated within their space or in their environment are collected and actually recycled.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But Mr. Godson, I would like to know, apart from GRIBE, which other organization or schools has can you name a few for us so that when we see them doing anything, we know that, okay, government is supporting them, because there have been various instances whereby people complain when it comes to, let's say, these small upcoming businesses, recycling businesses, like we have Tour House, we have CISA. All those people, are they examples of them, of those the government are supporting?
Yeah, we work in the past with Lancaster University to launch waste collection system, and then even the EPA is supported with materials in terms of for the management of supported them. And then we also launched a similar project in Protect, where we supported them with plastic bins, quite a number of them, for the collection and management of plastics in their compost. Yeah, so there are quite a number of them that aside, but at least these two institutions were supported in the past with materials, educational materials to actually manage plastic.
Okay, okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving on, Miss Trinity Tabo, I hope you can hear me, please.
I can hear you, madam.
Okay, thank you very much. Please, can you please explain some of your findings of your research on plastic pollution and the implementations of policies and their actions to us, please?
Come again, please.
Please, we would like to know some of your key findings on plastic pollution.
Okay, thank you. So we have found out that plastic pollution mainly stems from improper disposal and management of plastics by consumers and waste management companies. As you heard from my other colleagues, mostly as a result of lack of awareness on the negative implications of plastic pollutions, and also because most of them are not aware that when plastic waste is properly disposed and managed well, the waste can serve as a resource. Now, because of this, we think that policies to raise public awareness on the issue through combination of continuous and underlying continuous formal and informal education can encourage individuals and organizations to adopt a more sustainable approach of managing plastic waste. And this should be backed with provision of appropriate infrastructure or logistics for source segregation. Now, and this one has been explained already, introducing policies and actions that can aid the transition to a more sustainable material or materials, and also promotion of innovation. So I think I will stop there so that later I can add others to it.
Okay.
Or
Thank you
I
very
do
much.
I have more time to continue?
Oh, there are more questions. There are
Okay.
more questions. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too.
Okay. Moving on, we also like to ask Mr. Paul from Twa House how his innovation has helped address the problem of plastic pollution in our environment.
Okay, thank you. Fortunately, there's an existing market for some waste components, including plastics, scrap, and electronic waste. These components are already market driven, but the challenge now is to ensure adequate retrieval from the environment. So, for instance, the plastic stream has numerous buyers, and each is estimated to employ an average of 200 plastic pickers. Yet the current rate of plastic retrieval is less than 50%. This is particularly serious, given that it naturally takes about 500 to 1,000 years for plastic materials to decompose. But the good news for now is that the plastic waste sorting seems to have been embraced and is workable. Therefore, with a little boost and innovation, more can be achieved in getting our cities rid of this plastic waste. Now, I initially started speaking about one of our innovations, which was the MicroLife product. What we intended to do was to leverage plastic waste for an insurance cover. And so looking at the insurance penetration of Ghanaians, which about 2%, one of the reasons for that is because of, Ghana has a lot of problems. I mean, naturally. So insurance is not the first thing we think about, but it's actually a cushion or a support system when you do it right. And so at the end of the day, we realize that the people who are always left behind are about 80% who are below the poverty line, And so every human being creates waste, whether rich, whether poor. But what you do with your waste then turns into your treasure. And so we said, okay, look, ideally, of our lowest insurance tier is about 55 bottles. If you are drinking 2 bottles of water a day and you have 30 days in a month, you can actually do about 60 bottles in a month. And so it's doable for every individual. And so we're trying to get every single person below the poverty line into the insurance bracket, so that at least, if not for anything, we can be able to give some insurance cover, health, critical illness, hospitalization to those who actually need it. So again, we're linking trash to MicroLife insurance coverage, and that's we're killing two birds with one stone. And essentially, this is actually trash, which is going to be coming from post-consumers. And so we are actually preventing post-plastics from getting into the drains and onto the landfills. And so basically, this is in a nutshell how this particular innovation works.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Paul. Okay, let's take this from Mr. Lambert from Let's Do It Ghana. Mr. Lambert, we would also like to know your role, the role of your organization, that's Let's Do It Ghana. What the role that it plays in fighting against plastic pollution?
All right, thank
Hello,
you.
Mr. Lambert.
And so yes, I'm on. Okay. So for us, like I initiated from the beginning, we believe advocacy is a strong tool to making change in society. So that's one of the key areas we look at in fighting these plastic solution. And so if we are looking at that, then we are looking at advocating towards policy changes in the sector.
Okay.
So for instance, I must commend the government for initiating establishing the sanitation ministry, but I must also be quick to add that the collaborations are not, we are not seeing pragmatic steps enough for sustainable development in terms of sanitation of plastic pollution. And so one of the key areas we also look at is we focus more on the education and sensitization, so we are able to change mindset of people. If people begin to have mindset reorientation, they would get to think right and do things right. Then we also look at other adaptation practices. So for instance, in the beginning, I made mention if people practice a certain behavior over a period of time and you are trying to change that behavior, you need to motivate them for the provisions that we did for them. So all these things, and then we also establish very good part in the community. And so these people become our first point of call when we want to speak to the people in the area. For instance, we went to the markets and we spoke to the market leaders. These people understood what it meant by using reusable bags, and then they accepted it. So they themselves became change agents in bags that they can always use and use over and over again. If this was a live, I would have probably shown you a few things that we did in the market. Then you go to the schools themselves, the headmistress or the head of schools are using reusable bottles themselves. So these are areas where we focus our stronghold on, so we could make change in the communities we operate in. Imagine an imam comes to the mosque and he's having a reusable bottle. It sends a signal that the Muslim community should be able to lead the way in using alternatives in that nature. So these are ways we used in promoting the reduction of plastic pollution. And of course, we can also say that we have achieved a significant gain in the communities where we operate. So we had a partner in the community produce plastic dustbins for people around the community that need them. So we use them as our partners. So they also have economic benefit. So we employ about 2 million to join of the dustbin. So we believe that as we are doing the education, people are getting attitudes, they need livelihoods as well. So some of these things that achieved that came on. And then our project also, as part of the advocacy, we believe that women are people who depend on the market and all that, women and children. So we equip them with some skills to produce reusable bags themselves. And then we also give them logistics, that's machines. So even if we are gone and the project is on hold, they will be able to produce this reusable for the market and then the community to be able to use. So these are the roles we played in ensuring that plastic reduction is promoted in the communities we operate in.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks to each and every one of you. Yeah, I will go to Mr. Godson from the EPA. I will start from this way. Some countries have implemented bans on single-use plastic, such as plastic bags and straws. Is the government considering any of these in Ghana?
Right, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I know, yes, for sure that some countries actually have banned single-use plastics in their various jurisdictions. But I must state here that there isn't any such policies developed yet in Ghana, given the time frame and the kind of plastic that has to be banned. And I want to say that even if that is going to be done, definitely there's going to be a very comprehensive stakeholder engagement, bringing the producers, those in the industry, the regulators, the consumers, those who collect the waste and manage it. All of us would have to come to the table dialogue on the issue, identify the types of plastic that are really the problem that we want to fix out, and also set a time frame for which we want to phase out such problematic plastics. And then also we have to be looking at alternatives to replace what we want to ban. So for now, though there are schools of thought, some are on outright ban of single-use plastics, others are saying no ban, others are saying gradual phasing out of single-use plastics. These are all thoughts and school of thoughts, but currently, I think and I know that government hasn't come out with any policy directing that from this month of this year, there's going to be a ban on this type and this type and this type of plastics. So, Mr. Moderator, for now, that is how the situation is. When we get there, and we are all now convinced that the time has come, the problems are just too much for us in terms of the plastics as a problem. I know if we all sit together, we'll find a solution and set a timeline, look at what it's a problem, when we want to phase them out or stop them, what alternatives that are there, how do we get the alternatives to the market at a price or at, that is good for everybody. So for now, there isn't any such policy. Thank you,
Mr. Thank you to Mr. Godson. It's really great to receive this news of assurance. We believe that plastic, there are different types of plastic. There are the single-use plastic, there are the HDP plastic, there are PET plastic, there are LDP plastic, and each of them have different use. And so just like you said, advocating for a blanket ban on plastic, it's something that we all have to sit down and look at very well again. So thank you for the assurance and the news you have given us this afternoon. I would now look at the scientists. Dr. Tagbo, has CSIR have you come out with any technology or innovation that's to help address the plastic issue in Ghana? Hello, Doctor.
Hello, I'm here. Yes, so yes, there are a few technologies that we've come out with, some of which include various development or producing various composite materials from plastic waste, which can be used for furniture and for construction purposes. And in some cases, plastic waste is combined with other waste like wood waste, palm kernel shell, etc., to develop construction material. In CSIR, IIR, the scientists have played a major role in the school plastic recovery program, and it involves providing waste bins for high schools and institutions to sort, segregate their waste materials and sell the plastic waste to recyclers. This, we realize that it encourages recycling from students, keeps the environment clean, and also provides some financial incentives as motivation for the practice. Currently, CSIR is working on alternative packaging materials that can be used for food products to reduce the number of single-use plastics in our waste stream. Composite materials from wood, starch, and other compostable, biodegradable materials are being studied as sustainable replacement for single-use plastics. And we also developed some construction materials from plastic waste to replace, to partially replace sand and coarse aggregates in mortar formulation, and then also mortar formulations as well as mortar blocks itself. And this was used in the construction of Aqua Privy toilet facility, which was funded by GRIPE. Also, we have a technology whereby we use full whole bottles of plastic as walling materials, and we have used this to do partitioning of of offices. So we have a whole lot of technologies that we have developed. So I'll just end here and then let another person continue.
Thank you, thank you very much, Doctor. Perhaps I would ask a follow-up question. Second life projects are great to be done, developing plastic into blocks as a binder in blocks and all that. But has CSIR looked at the cost element of it, whether we can produce that on large scale?
Yes, so actually the project didn't end. We just started with the pilot study, and due to lack of funds, we couldn't finish the others. Normally, when you are conducting experiments or research activities, normally it is expensive. But then when you get results and you are now scaling it up, you realize that the amount of money you spend in the research, in conducting the research, is lowered when it comes to its application. So that is what I would say. And we all know that in the case of using plastic as for the binder, that is what is being done by industry with people like Nelson of Nest Plus. They are doing that. Normally, what we've realized that though it might seem expensive in the beginning, as the practice go on, you realize that there's a lot of reduction in that. So for what Nest Plus is doing, I think there should be a lot of reduction in terms of cost, because he and others who are using it as a binding agent do not use cement. So when it comes to the use of cement, now we are importing cement and the price keep on increasing. So if we are going to use this to replace cement, then it means that the high price of cement will be avoided. Now, when you are also using it to replace sand, you know that the environment or in many areas, sand and aggregate are getting depleted. That is, they are natural resources, and because of overuse, they are getting depleted. So in using a small amount of plastic to replace them, we are going a long way to preserve our environment and also get rid of plastics in the environment.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Tagbo. Excellently espouse the various issues that we need to consider here. I would go on to Tour House and ask that many a times when there are collaborations between industry and other agencies, we tend to look at the financial bit of it. And I don't know of the strategy that Tour House is using. So I would ask you, what kind of partnership or collaborations is crucial in developing and implementing the kind of innovations that you talk about here?
Okay, thank you, Eric. Truth be told, it's always a challenge, trying to get people to come on board, because the talk about the plastic or circular economy really hasn't gone down, even with industry, and so there's a lot of work to be done. But for us at Tour House, most of our interventions and projects usually need some government, backing, not monetary, not funding, but the collaboration, on a project usually becomes very difficult. I don't know whether it's the bureaucracy, the system, it doesn't grind so fast. And honestly, sometimes we decide to do things on our own. We contact a few people as and when, but first of all, I'm a business person before anything. And so there are lots of, commitments. And so if we're not getting deadlines, we're not getting responses, letters can go to ministries and take close to 2 months, or a month, you're not getting a response. And so for us, we like to play the Lone Ranger. We do things on our own. But it would have been the impact would have been felt if we have a government coming on board on some of the projects we do. So for instance, this micro-life product would have been amazing if we had MESTI, we had EPA, and all the agencies coming on board to support and, to get the word out there. But we're not getting that. And for industry, it's also another difficult hurdle, because we have we have a green tech, we have a system, a digital system that actually gives real-time data to manufacturers as part of their ESG, framework. But I mean, we've got a few of them, but they seem not to be interested, and so a lot of projects are shelved. But we do this because we know there's some light at the end of the tunnel, and so it's difficult. But industry, government, and these agencies are crucial to what we do, and I hope my big brother at EPA will invite me to his office after this discussion, so we can table some projects to him.
Okay, yeah. Mr. Paul, yeah, we hear you, and the fact that it's been a challenge and getting support from, especially industry. I don't know if Let's Do It Ghana also faces a similar challenge, but we would like you to take it from the point of civil society organizations in the country. Do you get support from these civil society organizations that we have in the country, or they are just interested in politics? Mr. Donko, if you can come in, please. Yeah.
Hello, Eric. Yes, so the challenges are not different from what we also face. Of course, like my brother mentioned, sometimes you are pushed to even go into the community and start some work whilst you follow up on the letter you have sent to probably the municipal assembly for approval. Because things that are very urgent with timelines, they do not look at them as things that are very urgent. So it takes some time, and sometimes you also have to have an insider to be able to push some of these things for you. Else the document will be lying on the table and it takes that period for it to be approved. You have to follow up over and over again till probably then your project might not even come on. So those are some of the challenges we face in working with the government sectors. But of course, they are very key in some of the things in most of the things we do. Because if you have to go to a school, you need approval from Ministry of Education. All those go through some bureaucratic means, but they are very important as well because of their rules they use in the engagements they use in the school. So we cannot rule them out. So it means that you have to probably create a relationship in the school with the school head. So he gives you some form of approval. You are doing some work before the real approval comes for the program to begin. And then with businesses or the industry players, for us, the collaborations we hold with them is more of CSR partnerships. So we believe that it is easier for us to coordinate with an organization who believes in environmental sustainability to make a project happen. Because if not so, if you don't align with what they are doing, they would not want to even sponsor your project to make it happen. So we look at the CSR collaborations with organizations that help us also to be able to achieve our projects. And then some of the partnerships we also look at are the community leaders, traditional leaders, because we believe that they are influencers in every part of our program, because we do the programs in communities. And so you cannot go to a particular community, let's say you cannot come to Labadi and not go to have the blessing or the voice of the chief added to what you are doing. It's very important. To heads of schools, we are going to a church. For instance, we went to one church around Mamubi, I think it was a Methodist church. And the Reverend Minister was a fire service person, so he understands so well what it means by plastic pollution and the impact it has on society. So people like that also help to make your work easier for you. So even in his preaching, he was able to highlight on it before we even came in with our education. So it made things easier for us. And just like the mosques, you go to the mosques, you need to go through the imam. So those partnership or collaborations are very important. And I also mentioned the fact that the market queens were very helpful. They themselves took our megaphones, they took our education materials, and they were talking to their people. So these partnerships are very key, or collaborations are very key to making impact on your project. So over the years, we've had key agencies like Street Sense organization, like the Ghana Wildlife, like Zoom Lion, Penorica, we have Alliance, UNDP, Footprints Africa, Bola Plus, and of course, and organizations like Grab giving us a platform for knowledge sharing like this. I think it's so it may not be as how we want it, but of course, a step in the right direction.
Okay, yeah.
Thank
you very much. I as we listen to you and we hear the challenges you face with industry and coming to civil society, I think it runs true. But I would like to ask this. Don't you think it's the way you frame the proposals that you send to these organizations? Because if you are sending a proposal to the MD of Coca-Cola and to look at this, he needs to make sure it makes sense. You need to consider the ESG goals of the company as well, and the policies guarding the space, for him to see how best he can align. Maybe we can look at that, and as we put together our proposals and then move on to submit it to other people, and not only focus on the financial aspect of it, that I am going to get some kind of financial help from this organization. Yeah, we will move on.
Eric, can I come in?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Please.
Okay, so add on to what you just said, with the presentation of the proposals and all that. I beg to differ a bit, because you see, as you said, the bureaucracy runs through. I'll give you a similar example. I will not mention the minister's name, but we tabled a project to him. After 2-3 months, it wasn't answered, with no response, nothing. We did a lot of follow-up. Now, I met the same minister in Kenya at the UN conference. And when I reminded him of the project, guess what? Before I got to my hotel, I got an email. So I keep on thinking, did the project just fall off from the secretary, or where did it actually get to him? So sometimes it's even the people who, the handlers of such people, they don't put premium on the project. So this is just one of the examples I just want to share.
Okay, good. Yeah, thank you for bringing this example. It's what it is telling us is this,
right?
As a country,
that's a good one.
Every one of us need to understand that we need to play a part in this course that we've taken. If we don't all play our part, we can achieve the kind of success that we are looking for. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. If you can come in with the next question for EPA. Yeah, thank you.
I think with EPA, the question, he answered this in his previous submission. So I'll move on to Mrs. Trinity. I would like to know if CSIR some of the effective ways to help get rid of plastics in our communities.
Okay. For what we have done so far, we think that some of the most effective ways are as follows. Raising awareness through education and sensitization programs on the dangers posed by improper disposal of plastics on our health and the environment. Also, government should invest in the means of proper waste collection by provision of infrastructure, enforcing segregation or source sorting of waste, transportation and recycling. And we think that though the provision of collection being started some time back, we don't hear anything about it these days. So if it could be reintroduced and be extended to many more communities to ensure that the practice is effective. And then we know that we cannot get rid of some of the plastics just like that. It will take some time, but we think that reduction of consumption of single-use plastics by replacing them with other alternatives and encouraging the use of reusable items like refillable bottles, cloth jute bags, and stainless steel straws can help reduce plastic waste. And then advocating for policies and actions that promote recycling and a circular economy rather than improper waste disposal and linear economy. We also think that implementing policies that holds the manufacturers and the producers accountable for the life cycle of their plastic products it's so very, very important because it pushes producers to manufacture materials with recycling in mind, and also to be more responsible by paying something towards the proper management of plastics. So basically, these are some of the ways we can effectively reduce plastic waste in the system.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Trinity. With the waste bin issue, it's something I've been following for quite a long time now, and I think the government really did well when it came to the provision of the waste bins, and it's so sad that some of us Ghanaians haven't made up our mind to help fight poor sanitation in our country. Some of the bins were stolen. Some were also used to store clothes and water in various houses.
Yeah.
So I think with EPA and also the Ministry of Sanitation, they have a lot of work to do when it comes to education. I hope Mr. Watson will take note of that for us and then send it across to the government. Okay, thank you. So moving forward to our house. Sorry. Moving forward to our house, we would like to know how investors like yourself ensure that solutions to plastic pollution are accessible and affordable to people from all backgrounds.
Okay, thank you. I believe that we have a lot of interventions, but the most human-centered intervention that's why I keep on talking about the insurance product. It's the most affordable insurance product that's there now, which every Tom, Dick, and Harry can access. It's satisfying to see that a Kaya would close after work and have bottles in her container to a drop-off point to pay off her insurance premium. That tells you that we are doing something right. The accessibility, the affordability. They understand that there's going to be a time they'll get sick and they need some coverage. And so if I see this, I definitely know that we're on the right path. And so how can we ensure this? As I said, we need a lot of drivers, industry, government, to give us some cushion, not funding, but support in terms of affiliation, collaboration. It helps some projects move up the ladder. And so this is one of the ways we are making making things accessible and affordable for people within the society, leveraging plastic. Where I've not spoken about our educational products as well, educational, but there's a lot more we are doing.
We will come to that. We are far, far, far behind time, and then the conversation is really getting interesting. So moving on, let's take Lambert from Let's Do It Ghana. Mr. Lambert, we would like to know the kind of partnership Let's Do It Ghana has with government and other businesses in encouraging solutions to plastic waste.
Hello, I think I highlighted on this in my last submission.
Okay. But please, can you please touch on it again, please?
Okay, that's fine. So I made mention that with the government institutions, we strictly, because we work in a community, we have a strong relationship with the municipal assemblies or the district assemblies. And so this gives us approval to enter into the communities where we operate in. Because on one of our projects, we even had the environmental department of the municipal assembly where we're working in come on board with us, do the education together. But of course, this also came after they saw us already on the ground doing something, because the letters were delaying, the approvals were delaying. But again, we have this partnership with the government agencies. So these are some of the ways we are able to probably have collaborations to ensure our projects are executed. And then I also spoke about the businesses where we use CSR partnership with them, because we believe that if you are aligned with what the organization believes in, that's what gives you the easy access to be able to work together. Because if I don't believe in plastic reduction, I won't be able to sponsor you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll leave it over to Eric to continue for us. Hello, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay.
For this response to our house. Sorry, Let's Do Ghana. Thank you very much. Now that I would move on to EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. Many a times we see that we've created some sort of value around plastic, and there's only one type of plastic, what we call in Ghana the sachet water bags. And we see that most of the people involved in segregating this type of bags are the people who work in the landfill sites. And so we would like to understand, how will the government ensure that marginalized and low-income communities are not disproportionately affected by this plastic issue here?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think this question is heavily loaded, but we'll take it from an angle where we are looking at, as for the plastics, it has been a problem with all of us. Plastics in every community you go is a problem, especially there's the films, the very thin films. Those are the ones that you need quite a large quantity in order to even get 500 kilos or 1 kilo. So they have become really a problem because people are, the nature of the plastic itself doesn't give that incentive for the collectors to even go for them, because you need to collect quite a large quantity in order to get a sizable amount of weight that even if you are selling, you can get some money. So you see that people are rather gravitating towards the thicker ones, the heavier ones, that even if you pick one, it's heavy, you can get something out of it. So it's an issue. So, but we still have to be looking at the alternatives, because eventually there must be something to be done about this very thin micronage, less than 20 microns plastics that are always flying around because they are so light, can be blown around anywhere, anytime, and they see them hanging on all kinds of things. So I would say that we should be looking at alternatives, because the alternatives have been with us. It has been with us all this while, but the convenience of using plastics because of their lightweight, their durability, we have shifted away from our traditional packaging material. So we need to go back to our roots and then get these things actually back incorporated into our system, so that issues like using the cotton fabrics, using the bamboo and rattan buckets and bags for shopping has to come back to us. And then with that, if you're able to do all these things, and I want to believe that there won't be anybody called marginalized person, because the plastics affects everybody. It doesn't discriminate. It's everywhere. And if there are solutions to handling the single-use ones, everybody will benefit from it. Because once we don't have it, we have alternatives that everybody will use. That is what we all gravitate towards. So I don't think there will be an issue of probably some communities or some people are going to be marginalized because of issues of plastic. We are all suffering from it equally, wherever you are, directly or indirectly, it's affecting us. And if the solution eventually comes, we're all going to benefit from it equally. So, Mr. Moderator, I think this is where I'll leave it. And if there are other questions, we can look at that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. EPA. You've tried in a way to educate us on the type of plastic and the type of interventions that we will deploy. But I'm very happy that you've touched on the fact that some of them are heavier, and so there's some kind of value created. If you take PET, a lot of the segregation is going in that area, and so we are very much happy around there. But the chunk of plastic in the Ghana community are the flexes, and these flexes are sort of relegated to people working on our landfills to do the segregation. But I'm very grateful that yes, government is looking at that and something will come out very soon. I'm very grateful for your answer. Yeah. I'll move on to CSIR to ask if there are any research in the field or any future research that you are conducting to fight plastic pollution here.
You mean to fight the pollution or for the alternative? Yes. Okay.
Is there any research you've done to give us alternative for the plastic pollution that we are currently seeing?
Well, we've started some, but we haven't really concluded yet. So in the area of biodegradable plastics, compostable plastics, we have started something, but we are not really there yet. So that is what I can say. But then I can also say that apart from biodegradable plastics, which can be broken down by microorganisms, we also have the compostable ones, which can be broken down into soil conditioning material. And we have a bio-based plastics, which are made of partially or fully from plants and renewable materials. And then we also have bioregenerative materials, which are made from seaweed, hemp, and mushroom. And this is being, there's a program going on in Ghana now where they are looking at using seaweed. But I must say that all this actually are going in for packaging materials, because before you can actually replace the plastic waste, it depends on what you are trying to replace the plastic item with. Our brother has already shared that because of the unique properties of plastic, it can be used for anything at all. But it is not in the case of the other alternatives. And then we also have the natural fibers, which are made from materials such as cotton and jute. And we are looking at that one as well. And then the cardboard and the paper, it can also be used as alternative. And then the recycled plastic packaging. And then also we have ozone-degradable plastics, which are basically the conventional ones mixed with additives to accelerate degradation. And then what we even used to have before, which are our glass, bamboo, natural fiber, cloth, ceramics, etc., and stainless steel, they also exist. But you see, though some of these alternatives contribute less to impact of littering, they may have higher carbon footprint and other problems, and which may significantly be worse, even more than the plastic that we are trying to replace it with. So it is a very difficult situation, but whatever it is, we are looking at it, and I'm very sure that solutions will come up very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we depend on our scientists to come up with solutions to the problems we face. And so I'm very happy that something is being done in this area to look at.
Oh, let me come in again. Another one that we are looking into is how to recycle, or how to get something out of orphan plastics. I think you mentioned them. These are plastic waste that is abandoned, mismanaged, and non-recyclable. So, and they are single use. They consist of plastic bags, plastic packaging, and other cheap plastics that is found almost everywhere, and it's very difficult to get rid of. So we are looking into how to manage this one as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Like I said, we look up to our scientists to develop ways of handling these other issues. So we are very grateful. We would urge you to continue with your various research, and then come out with innovative ways of handling these issues. Yeah. My last question to EPA is for you to tell us how you envisage the future to be. How do you see us moving into the future with plastic pollution all around us here? Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Okay, I would move on with my last question to.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir, please.
Yeah, are you? Please, I want to listen to somebody was calling. I was using my modem for it.
Okay, yeah. I was asking how you see the future of EPA. How does EPA envisage the future for Ghana in terms of plastic pollution? Hello? Hello, sir. Well, I think that Mr. EPA will come back again to us, and we will have the opportunity for him to address our last question for us here. Move on to the very final one, to Let's Do It Ghana. The same question to you as well is, what kind of future do you envisage Let's Do It Ghana to have in Ghana? Yeah.
So for us, we want to see a clean, a green, and a free Ghana. But how can we do this? We feel there should be a lot more commitment on the part of government with policy. Of course, we also want to ask yourself, the companies that are producing plastic, to what commitment are they putting in to be able to reduce plastic themselves? Probably find alternative use in production that would help society. So then individuals will also learn not to reduce plastic from their end. These are dialogues that need to go on. We want government to open up the discussion where we have all stakeholders come on board, the business sector, those in the industry, then CSOs, all the industry players, stakeholders come on board. So we see a better way, so we do not hurt anyone, but we all probably bring our actions on board to be able to help reduce plastic. Of course, the effective education must continue to go on, both on the part of individuals to have a change of mind, and then the policy implementations as well as the business sector as well. And then we should also start the change by using zero essentials ourselves. If we are doing it, I am sure people in our offices will learn to also adhere to those practices, and it becomes a national assignment for us all. So for us, Let's Do It Ghana, we believe that the change begins with us, and so that's the vision we want to see. Let's all lead the change from ourselves. Of course, and at GRIBE, we have a lot more companies that are producing plastics. So then the commitment must start from these organizations as well. So if we say all organizations that are GRIBE are leading the change in plastic, and this is what they are doing, if we can quantify what the impact of what they are doing, and it becomes a larger portion of what we want to see, I'm sure other companies which may not be responsible will also become responsible from there. I believe we will see a better Ghana with free country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Moderator.
Yes. Yes.
Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah,
sir.
I had a problem with my line, so I'm back online now.
Okay, so I thank you for coming back. I was asking you how does EPA see the future of Ghana without plastic pollution?
I think it's something that we are all yearning for, to have a country devoid of plastics and plastic waste. But what I also want to say is that we need to do a whole lot of things ourselves. So we need to say no to single-use plastics. We need to, as much as possible, use the alternatives. Go back to our roots. And then where we even have to use the plastic, we have to practice the 4 R's or the 6 R. We need to do some form of reduction in the quantum of plastic use. We have to reuse as much as possible, recover what we can recover, and make sure that we recycle.
Hello, sir. Are you there, please?
Recycle. And then we need to change our behavior as well towards the way we manage plastics. Let's do waste segregation ourselves. Let's segregate waste and add value to every stream that is segregated. And last of all, let's all be responsible citizens. So, Mr. Moderator, this is where I will leave it. Thank you very much.
Thank you too very much. And we have discussed the issues at length here, and we are far behind our time. We'll go into the chat box and take the opportunity to address a few of the questions that we have in our chat box. We have 2 questions in our chat box. So I'll throw the question to people joining us here who would help us with answers. The first one is coming from Edua and Sherry. She wants to know if there is a buyback happening in Kaswa, and where in Kaswa she can join. Yeah, please.
Okay.
Do we have
Eric,
somebody?
I'm coming in with the buyback center. Kwaliba has one in Kasua, so Edu can set me up on Instagram so that I can give out their contact to her. That's Efia Sanitation on Instagram. So I can give out contact of Kwaleba to her. Then, so
Okay,
that is
thank
it
you,
on that.
thank you. Yeah,
And
thank you
with
very much.
EPA,
Yeah.
Mm.
Pardon?
And back to EPA, I don't know if Mr. Godson is still on here. Yeah, he's still on here. Talking about the future, you know, there is a machine, the RVM machine, that's reverse vending machine for plastic bottles. Has the government, or is there any plan on bringing such machines to Ghana to help in the plastic waste?
Maria, what the issue is that when eventually we've developed the take back system, then in the development of the framework, those are some of the options we have to look at. So for now, there isn't anything like that. But eventually, if we are going to implement the extended producer responsibility and then the take back systems, these are some of the technology that has to be brought on board. It has to be done, it has to be looked at in our own context so that it will not be something that we copy from somewhere and then just come and plant it here. So we have to look at it and look at all the modalities in terms of the tax on those bottles that has to be returned. How is the money going to be spent? Who takes the money? All those things has to be looked at in terms of the framework that will be developed. So going forward, once the policy is being implemented as it is now, part of it is the implementation of the policy has started by the establishment of the circular economy. So the other phases that will come on board, all those things will come, and then eventually we'll get there. But for now, I don't have an idea if such machines are imported into the country for you. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you very much. I think it will really, really help if there are such machines in our malls and other places. Okay, Eric.
Yes, Ifya, yeah. Thank you very much, Ifya and Mr. EPA. Thank you very much. I will wrap up here and so that we move on to give our closing remarks. But then I would go back to the chat box.
There's a question.
I see Joanna asking if there are alternatives for plastic bags. She's actually telling us that there are alternatives from plastic bags from agro waste. I think the team will get in touch with you and then we will look at the alternatives and then move the conversation from there. Yeah. I also have a question from one Abednego Brandy. You wanted to know if the plastic policy has actually been implemented. And so we'll come back to EPA, the man from EPA, for you to tell us the policy that you eloquently espoused, has it been implemented already? Hello, sir. Yes.
Yeah, that question, I think it's for me, eh?
Yes, please. We wanted to know.
Yes, but the policy document is not something that can be implemented overnight. Okay. It's a document that is guiding us as a blueprint to how we want to manage plastics in the system. And the implementation has already started, but not implementation has started. It's a document that has a lot of components, as I said. I mentioned 4 major pillars, and then just one of it has begun, or some are happening alongside. But you know, currently the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation has launched the establishment of circular economy framework for Ghana. It's part of the activities that are supposed to be implemented as far as the policy is concerned. So it's being taken one after the other. And then it cannot be done overnight. But eventually, everybody who has some role to play or something to do with plastics in the value chain it's part of this policy. So as and when the time comes, everybody will roll in and everybody will play their roles for us to ensure that we manage effectively and environmentally sustainable way, in environmentally sustainable way of handling plastic.
Thank you very
Right,
much,
thank you.
Mr.
I
Godson.
think
Yes, I think we must all recognize the gravity of the pollution crisis and the urgent need for collective action. And then also look at the impact of plastic pollution on the environment, on our wildlife, on our human health as well, and also look at pollution in general. Yeah. We must all take responsibility in our very small ways. The little actions will make some significant changes in for us to look at this issue of disposal. Yeah. I believe that each of us hold the power to drive change. And whether you are disposing of the water, the bottled water that you are drinking from, whether you are participating in a cleanup in your local area, or whether you are advocating for policies to combat plastic pollution, you are helping to create a healthier future for ourselves and the future generations and the planet we call our home. And so we say a big thank you to our panel of experts. We thank them so much for blessing us with their invaluable insights and expertise to our cause. And to all the various managing directors of GRIPE canteens who were able to join us here, and the GRIPE representatives. We say a big thank you to you for lending credibility to our cause and your countless inspiration for better and more equitable future. And lastly, to everybody who was able to join us, we say a big thank you to you all, and that the time you spent with us here is much appreciated. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining this discussion here. Yeah. Thank you.
Before we go, we'll be taking an e-picture. So let's all kindly put on our camera for an e-picture.
Thank you. Thank you. And who is going to take that? Are you the one going to take that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. It's one more time. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So thank you. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
It's done. So, Mr. EPA, I'll get in touch with you.
Welcome.
And then
you are always welcome.
Yeah, I hope when I bring my proposal, it wouldn't be like to our house's own.
Loretta, did you say Kwaliba? Or
Yes. No, Kwaliba, Kwaliba is in Kasua.
Okay.
They are also adding. They are in a crack. They are
can you drop their contacts in the chat box?
Not now, but then you can check. You can send me a message on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Oh, okay. That's nice.
I think the challenge we have in Kasua is there is no